A. Welcome to another outstanding, fabulous, awesome, dynamite, amazing Phillips podcast, or Pete. Nice. Guys, today's podcast is going to be on lesson 5.5, parallel lines and bam! Transversals. That should be like plus 10 bears. Nice vocab. Transversals. By the end of the podcast today, guys, you should be able to find the measures of angles formed by parallel lines and a bam! Transversal. For some strange reason, that vocabulary word keeps popping up.
I'm thinking it might be important, so pay attention.
Bam! There it is again, transversal. For today's podcast, a transversal is going to be a line or line segment that intersects parallel lines. It intersects parallel lines. Let's give her a old spin and see what else she has in store for us today. Parallel lines. That's easy. Parallel lines. A set of lines that go on forever. By definition, they never touch, they never get any closer, they never get any farther apart. Spin the old wheel. Corresponding, nice vocab, plus 20 bears.
But who's counting?
Corresponding angles, angles that are congruent. Corresponding angles, angles that are congruent. Transversal. I already did that one. Get out of here. Goodbye. Alright. Now I'm really starting to get annoyed. Congruent. Congruent. Angles that are the same. Congruent. Angles that are equal or the same. All right, take a look at our picture, guys. We have a set of parallel lines. Our blue line here, or I'm going to highlight in yellow, by definition, this, peeps, is a transversal. A transversal intersects, or it cuts through the parallel lines. That's going to be really important for you to understand, because whenever we have a transversal that intersects or cuts through parallel lines, the transversal and the parallel lines are going to form corresponding angles. So here's our official definition. A transversal is a line or line segment that intersects two other lines or line segments. The most important part for you to understand: when parallel lines are intersected by a bam transversal, several pairs of congruent angles are formed. When a transversal cuts through parallel lines, several pairs of congruent angles are formed. Now, for my visual people, you wonder why I have a picture of puzzle pieces here, because these problems are going to be like a puzzle. Once you figure out what one of these angles are, you will be able to figure out the rest of them. It's kind of like putting a puzzle together. They just fall into place. So I'm going to color coordinate this podcast. I'm going to use the colors red, purple, blue, and green. Why?
Because that's what the book used.
Alright, so here we go. I have parallel lines, and I have a transversal right here in yellow. Transversal. it intersects or cuts through my parallel lines. You'll notice I have red and red. I'm not worried about the other colors now. I just want you to focus on the red and red angles. By definition, this transversal forms corresponding angles. Bang!
Nice vocab. Plus 30 bears.
And guys, corresponding angles are congruent. Easy way to remember it. Corresponding starts with a C. Congruent starts with a C. So what's this mean in English? Good question. Plus 10 if you ask. I'm going to pretend that this angle right here, it's acute.
Plus 40 bears, but who's counting?
This acute angle here in red, I'm going to pretend that it is 75 degrees. I'm just guesstimating. You like that word? Guesstimate? I think it's a made-up word. Guess and estimate shoved all together. Guesstimate. I'm going to guesstimate that this angle right here that's in red is 75 degrees. By definition, these are corresponding angles here in red. So by definition, they are congruent. Congruent means they are equal. So if this angle is 75, by definition, the other angle has to be 75 degrees. So what I'm trying to get you to realize in this podcast is a transversal makes corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are what? Plus 10 if you said congruent, equal. So these are both going to be 75 degrees. Same picture. There's my transversal. This time I want you to focus on the purple angles. The purple angles. The transversal makes corresponding angles. Remember, corresponding C, congruent C. So what I'm trying to get you to see, SCE, no pun intended. The purple angles are congruent, or they are equal. So I'm thinking that this purple angle right here there we go. Had to make it official. I'm thinking this purple angle right here is obtuse. Nice vocab, bears. Plus 10.
50, but who's counting?
I'm going to guesstimate that this purple angle right here is, I'm going to say, 105 degrees. So, if this is 105 degrees, by definition, this angle right here that is purple also is a corresponding angle. Corresponding angles by definition have to be congruent. So if this purple angle is 105, this one has to be 105. And I know you're going to try to get me for minus 10 because I had to put my degrees. Shouldn't have reminded me. Thanks for helping the bears out. Same picture. Here's my transversal. This time I want you to focus on the blue angles. The blue angles. The transversal makes corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are what? Nice job. Minus 10 bears since you said congruent. Very good. So, I'm going to say let's make that blue. This blue angle is obtuse. Got my 10 back. Thanks. It's obtuse, so I'm going to guesstimate that it is 105. By definition, guys, a transversal makes corresponding angles that are what? C-O-N-G-R-U-E-N-T. What's that spell? Congruent. Nice job. Minus 10 bears. It makes congruent or corresponding angles. So right here, my other blue angle has to be 105. They're congruent, equal, or corresponding angles. Bada bing, bada boom. Alrighty, focus in on the green angles this time. There's our transversal. I'm thinking that this is acute. Remember, acute. The doctor walked in and said to Mr. and Mrs. Angle, "Congratulations, you have a cute little angle." I know, nice story, but I won't take the 10. I'm going to say this is an acute angle, and I'm going to guesstimate that it is 75. So by definition, the transversal makes what kind of angles? Good job, boys and girls. Corresponding angles that are what? Oh, you're so smart. You're going to shred the FCAT. Congruent. Corresponding angles. Congruent. Congruent means equal or the same. So both of my green angles here are going to be 75 degrees. All right, peeps. Let's do a couple of examples together, and then we'll call it a wrap. We want to use this picture to find angle 1 and angle 2. Remember, this is going to be our shortcut or the lazy way. Instead of having to write the word angle every time, we're just going to write this symbol. We want to find angle 1 and angle 2. So, remember how I told you this was kind of like a puzzle? There's a dilation. Nice vocab, bears. Plus 60, but who's counting? This is like a puzzle, guys. You got to put it together piece by piece. All right, here's my thoughts. I have a transversal cutting through parallel lines. You should know by now. Transversals make corresponding angles when they cut through the parallel lines. So, bada bing, bada boom. These are corresponding angles. By definition, if they're corresponding angles, they have to be congruent or equal. Let's back that out. So that is going to be 110. There's my degree mark so I don't lose any yards.
Pinky, pinky, pinky. But that's a good thing.
So these are corresponding angles. By definition, they are congruent or equal. So let's clone this baby and translate them.
Nice vocab, bears.
Up to here. So angle 1 is 110, corresponding angles. Now, hopefully you remember from one of our previous podcasts that these two angles are, nice job, minus 10 bears. They are supplementary angles, guys. Supplementary angles. Give myself a little working space here. So these two angles are going to be supplementary. Why? They form a straight line or a straight angle. Therefore, we should know that supplementary angles add up to, bam, 180. Nice job. So I'm going to take 180 and I'm going to subtract my 110. When I do that, I get 70 degrees. So I'm going to say Angle 2 is 70 degrees. Notice, guys, we said that angle 1 and 2 were supplementary. 110 plus 70 gets you back to the 180. All right, hang with me, guys. One more example. Bam! How you like them apples? If you're at home watching this podcast, pause it, draw the picture, and then restart the podcast and see if you can answer correctly. All right, remember we talked about a puzzle? I'm having way too much fun. Guys, this is like a puzzle. I'm going to start with one piece, try to put the rest of the pieces together. So here we go. Got a couple different choices here. You could start with corresponding angles, but I think this would be a good review of vertical angles. So I'm going to go this route. I'm going to say angle 1 and 75 are vertical angles. Remember, vertical angles are across from each other and they're formed by intersecting lines. So I'm going to say angle 1 and 75 degrees are vertical angles. So by definition, vertical angles are congruent. Nice vocab. So angle 1 minus 10 bears. Sloppy degree. There we go. Angle 1 is going to be 75 degrees. So let's plop that in up here. Angle 1 is 75 degrees. Alrighty. Got a couple different routes that you can go, but let's review supplementary angles. Get them out of the way. Goodbye. Thanks for helping us. We'll use you later. Supplementary angles. Guys, angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary. They form a straight line, straight angle. By definition, they have to add up to 180. So I'm going to do 180. Subtract 75 degrees. And when I do that, we should get, bada bing, bada boom, 105. So angle 2 has to be 105. Minus 10 bears. Minus 10 bears again. Okay, I got it right. 105 and 75 have to give you 180. So, get rid of my little scratch work here. And let's say angle 2 is 105 degrees. Alrighty. Now, if we go back to the vertical angles, thanks for your help, supplementary. Go take a break. We'll use you later. Vertical angles, guys. Do a little rotation. Bada bing. Bada boom. We have vertical angles. So if this is 105, by definition, vertical angles are congruent. Angle 3 has to be 105. Alrighty. Now, if you remember, today's podcast was on a transversal. Here's our transversal. It forms what kind of angles? Bada bing, bada boom. Chicka bow wow, chicka bow wow. A transversal forms corresponding angles. So, let me borrow the green arrows for a minute. Corresponding angles. I'm thinking I have corresponding angles right here. 105 and angle 5. Or angle 2 and angle 5 are going to form corresponding angles. So if angle 2 is 105, then angle 5 has to be 105. Now you should be armed with enough information. Yeah, you're getting it. I know. Let's go back to what we did before. Vertical angles. Bada bing, bada boom. Angle 5 and angle 7. Vertical angles, by definition, they are congruent. Congruent. Maybe I should enter a spelling bee sometime. Two angles left. If I go back to corresponding angles, all right, sorry peeps. Start the rain, I thought I was going to lose electricity. So let's wrap this baby up. If I go back to my definition, corresponding angles, congruent. Angle 1, angle 4, corresponding angles. Therefore, they are congruent. Angle 1 is 75. Angle 4 has to be 75. All right, see? I told you it's like doing a puzzle. You start with one piece and just keep filling the puzzle in. I'm to the last piece of the puzzle, and I can proudly say that angle 6, vertical angles across from each other. Vertical angles. They are vertical angles. If this is 75 degrees, then this guy has to be 75 degrees. Alright, it's really not as bad as it looks. If you need to, stop the podcast, rewind it. You'll get it. Just keep looking at all your different angles, corresponding angles, vertical angles, and supplementary angles. Alright, guys, stay tuned for our next podcast when we'll roll right into alternate exterior angles and alternate interior angles. Plus 20 more bears!